Exclusive contract with Feilu Novel Network Novel. Hong Kong film. Xiong Starts. From accepting Toni Tian's health preservation in the late 1980s, Xiangjiang was a mixed bag of good and bad, with opportunities everywhere. Little Jewish, long Jiwen, fine grain, He Min, Li Xinxin, Qiu Di, HaitangHong Xing, Dongxing, Liansheng, Zhong Xinyi, JiaLuochen travels through the world of Hong Kong film fusion, and at the beginning, he accepts the three brothers who are known for their ferocity and ruthlessness, as well as the 7 siblings of Tian Yangshen. Several years later, Hongxing, Dongxing Yamaguchi gumi, mafia Extinguish. The underground society of the world regards Luo Chen as the emperor. In terms of business, there are blooming everywhere, and the supergroup of aviation and parent companies is just the tip of the iceberg in the Luo Chen business kingdom. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 01 Ruan Mei, Little Jew. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. 89 years. July 15th. Yao Ma Di. At around 9 o'clock in the evening. Luo Chen had just finished looking at the rudimentary housing estate rooms, walked out of the dirty and messy hallway, and went downstairs. Suddenly, a few frivolous noises came into my ears. Pretty girl, don't leave. Let's go have a drink together. Yeah, make friends. We don't know how to eat people. We're still from the film company. Just come with us for a drink and promise to make you the lead actress. Looking around, Luo Chen's eyes lit up. What appeared at the corner downstairs was a pure and flustered beauty. Even though she is panicked at this moment, it is difficult to conceal her exquisite and pure essence. About 20 years old. He is about 1.68 meters tall, with delicate facial features, beautiful eyes with autumn water, and a skin that looks like condensed fat. A flowing long hair casually draped over the shoulders, even though the clothes were not expensive at the moment, just simple jeans and T-shirts, they gave people an infinite sense of moving. Especially her panicked expression at this moment makes people unable to help but want to protect her. As for those little thugs with malicious expressions and surrounded by pure and beautiful women, they have been ignored by Luo Chen. What do you want? I'll tell you, my boyfriend has already come to pick me up, and he's coming down from above. Soon, he knows martial arts. I advise you to leave quickly. The innocent beauty took a small step back and sternly threatened. It's just that those little thugs don't take it seriously at all. The more afraid she was, the more fierce and cunning she was, and the more they saw that she had no support, so they continued to approach her with more confidence and fearlessness. As the beautiful woman was about to be forced to approach the corner of the wall, Luo Chen stood up at the right time, coughed, and woke up several young thugs. The innocent beauty couldn't help but sparkle with her beautiful eyes when she saw Luo Chen's figure. But when he saw Luo Chen's thin figure, he couldn't help but have a somewhat disappointed expression. She immediately signaled with her eyes to Luo Chen to hurry and call for someone to come over. Well, kind-hearted, even to this extent, still considering others, she is a good girl. Stinky kid, those who are sensible, hurry up and leave, don't hinder the master's work. The little thug with yellow hair turned his head and shouted sternly at Luo Chen. Luo Chen shrugged nonchalantly and ignored him. Instead, he blinked at the innocent beauty and smiled awkwardly, saying, "You've been bullied by someone else, why don't you shout at me? If you can't even handle these dead flying kids, how can you still be your boyfriend? How can you protect you? Boyfriend?" The innocent beauty was stunned for a moment, then realized that Luo Chen had heard what she had just fabricated. Those little thugs also understood Luo Chen's words and instinctively thought that Luo Chen was the boyfriend of a beautiful woman. However, when they heard Luo Chen calling them dead flying boys, their anger couldn't help but soar. Grass, since you don't know how to live or die, if you insist on being a beam, then we'll help you. Go ahead. Beat him up. The young thug led by him was full of anger on his face, and with a wave of his hand, several of his subordinates rushed towards Luo Chen. Luo Chen made a secret gesture, moved his body, and kicked a few feet casually. Those little thugs come faster and fly backwards faster. Bang bang bang. After a few muffled noises, several little thugs flew backwards and crashed into the wall, crying and shouting, but could no longer get up and could only roll on the ground, howling incessantly. The little thug led by him was dumbfounded and immediately realized that he and others had encountered a tough problem. But before he could come to his senses, Luo Chen had already slapped him away. Teeth and blood dance in the air. Also hovering in the air, there is a small thug leading the way. By the time he landed, he had already been knocked unconscious. It's okay, just a few scumbags. Luo Chen walked towards the innocent beauty, smiled slightly, took her hand and pulled her over. In this short moment 10 seconds. Or 8 seconds. Before the beauty could react, Luo Chen had already taken care of everyone, which made her unable to react. It wasn't until Luo Chen pulled her away that she realized she had been held by a stranger's delicate hand. The beautiful woman couldn't help blushing and instinctively broke free from Luo Chen's big hand. She lowered her eyes and whispered, "Thank you. Kid, we are Congenital's people. How dare you touch us?" At this moment, the leader Huang Mao woke up slightly, got up, and threatened Luo Chen. "Kuan-gu. Which Kuan-gu is so imposing?" Luo Chen asked leisurely. Huang Mao wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with a fierce expression and a cold snort in his unfriendly eyes, saying, "You haven't even heard of our boss's name. Our boss is Liang Kuan-gu, and Hongxing Wanzai. Fit people. How are you, scared? If you're scared, hurry up and kneel down to apologize to us, and compensate us with 50,000 yuan for the soup medicine. That's all for this." Liang Kuan. No wonder these guys said they made a movie, they were originally under Liang Kuan's command. Liang Kuan. I haven't heard of it. Luo Chen smiled slightly, but in an instant, his face turned pale and his body moved. In the blink of an eye, he came to Huang Mao's face and kicked him 3 meters away. Huang Mao let out a miserable howl, and when he landed, his head hit the ground, fortunately fainting. "Lift him up, get lost." Luo Chen snorted coldly and shouted in a deep voice. Those thugs who were still crying in pain and shouting "Mom and Dad" dared not fart anymore. They immediately endured the pain and skillfully carried the fainting yellow-haired person. "It's okay, don't come back so late in the future." Luo Chen smiled slightly at the beautiful woman and turned around before leaving. "Hey, wait, my name is Ruan Mei. What's your name? At least let me know your name, otherwise how can I find you to express gratitude?" Ruan Mei quickly called out to Luo Chen. Ruan Mei. Little Jewish. The absolute female lead in the age. It was originally her. No wonder it's so pure and beautiful. If we have fate, we will naturally see each other again. Luo Chen's footsteps did not stop, he just turned his head and smiled slightly, then strode away. Ruan Mei chased for a few steps, but couldn't catch up with Luo Chen's footsteps. She couldn't help but furrow her eyebrows and had to stay in place, with a look of disappointment on her face. "Chen-gu, why didn't you let me take action just now?" Not far from the estate, a figure quietly appeared beside Luo Chen and asked. 2 days of health preservation, 7 brothers and sisters. Toni, the 3 brothers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The suddenly appearing figure was thin and not very tall, only about 1.72 meters tall. At around 20 years old, with a cold and stern face, he may not be very handsome, but he can barely be called a handsome man. However, his cold demeanor and the terrifying killing intent that flashed by just now have a sense of forest-like avoidance from strangers and death. Luo Chen showed no surprise at the sudden appearance of the young man. He shook his head slightly, glanced sideways at the young man beside him, and smiled. How many stinky fish and rotten shrimp do you need to take action? Ah Sheng, there will be plenty of opportunities for you to take action in the future. Don't worry. Ah Sheng. Heavenly health preservation. The biggest villain in man's nature. It's also the ceiling of force. Now, it's Luo Chen's bodyguard. To be precise, it is Tian Yangshen who is worried about the safety of Luo Chen and insists on following him to protect him. Or, to put it another way, solve some small problems for Luo Chen. Tian Yangshen nodded slightly and did not dwell on the question just now. He absolutely believes and admires Luo Chen's strength value. If even those little thugs could threaten Luo Chen, he wouldn't be worthy of following Tian Health. Luo Chen glanced at Tian Shengyin again, but in reality, he looked at the numerical value on his head. Something that only he could see. 100, it represents unwavering loyalty. Never betray. That's right, Luo Chen is not from this world. Half a month ago, he traveled to this parallel world where countless Hong Kong films merged, activated the Krypton gold system, and then saved the Tian Yangshen 7 siblings a few days later. From then on, Tian Yangshen's 7 siblings followed him. Of course, the reason why Tian Yangshen and others followed him wholeheartedly was not only because of Luo Chen's life-saving kindness to them, but also because of Luo Chen's terrifying power value. In his past life, Luo Chen was originally an entrepreneur with some achievements, but now that he has traveled through time, everything before him has gone with the wind. Now, after activating the Krypton gold system, Luo Chen received a beginner gift package from the system and successfully obtained the martial arts skills of the 8 Extremes Fist. Therefore, he became a master of the 8 Extremes Fist with terrifying force points. And this numerical display is a small surprise that comes with the Krypton gold system. As long as he becomes a subordinate of Luo Chen, he can check the loyalty level of his subordinates to him. With this thing, he can determine who is 100% loyal to him. The Krypton gold system, hence its name C, can become stronger as long as Krypton gold is used. Except for houses, land, and some unique inherent assets that cannot be used to make money, anything of money or related value can be used to make money stronger. But the premise is that the host needs to have these things for 7 days. That is to say, in order for Luo Chen to earn money, he must possess these assets that can be used as money for at least 7 days in order to exchange them for skills and other things. Open personal attributes and Luo Chen can check the detailed attributes at this moment. Host. Luo Chen. Strength. 88/10 for ordinary people, agility. 80/10 for ordinary people, speed. 75/10 for ordinary people, spirit. 70 ordinary people 10, physical fitness. 85/10 for ordinary people, technique. 8 Extremes Fist, Grandmaster, other skills. The division of skills is also very simple. Level division, from low to high, is divided into several levels. Beginner, beginner, proficient, master, master, and divine. Now Luo Chen has the strength of a master of the 8 Extremes Fist. However, Tian Yangshen, who struggled to survive on the battlefield since childhood and possessed terrifying abilities, was only a half-step master. So, after Luo Chen deliberately engaged in a battle with Tian Yangshen and others, they were all intimidated by Luo Chen's strength. In addition, Luo Chen had a life-saving kindness towards them, so they all devoted themselves wholeheartedly to Luo Chen. The reason why Luo Chen appeared in Yaomati was because he needed to find more slightly hidden places to hide or use them for other purposes. Unexpectedly, as soon as I found my first place, I met the little Jewish woman Ruan Mei. Under the swirling thoughts of Luo Chen, the two of them silently returned to the territory of Sham Shui Pe. Luo Chen's current territory is in Sham Shui Pe. When it comes to which district of Xiangjiang is the poorest, Sham Shui Pe is definitely one of them. Sham Shui Pe, known as a slum. Brother Chen. Brother Chen. After returning to a dilapidated small bar, everyone inside immediately stood up and shouted respectfully to Luo Chen. Luo Chen smiled slightly, raised his hand, and gestured for them to sit down. This rundown bar is the property of Luo Chen. And Luo Chen's current identity is a leader with a small prefix. It's just a piece of land on just one street. And this world is also much larger than Luo Chen imagined. A district, to put it simply, is as big as an ordinary small city. And the region is even more outrageously large. Luo Chen looked at the few people sitting leisurely by the bar. The one on the left head is about 23 years old, about 1.8 meters tall, with a slightly slender figure. Although his facial features are decent, he also appears fierce in appearance. Toni. Wild Wolf. One of the biggest villains in The Spark. One of the ceilings of force value. The one next to him, with a Chinese character face and a slightly wealthy appearance, is Toni's big brother, Scumbag, also known as the Wild Tiger. Next to the Scumbag was a burly young man with a slightly dull face. Ahu. Scumbag and Toni's younger brother. Toni and his 3 brothers were rescued by Luo Chen at the beach 2 days after saving Tian Yangshen and his 7 siblings. Therefore, they are also grateful to Luo Chen. Luo Chen swept towards their heads. Zhej. 90, Toni. 92, Ahu. 98, after the value reaches 90, loyalty becomes very reliable and difficult to betray. Of course, if it doesn't reach a value of 100, it's not to the point of never betraying. Luo Chen looked at the person next to him, who also had a Chinese face, a tall figure, quite handsome and cool, and was the second highest ranked Tianyang among the 7 siblings of Tianyang Health. Then the other one, with a mature face and a slightly anxious appearance, is Tian Yangzi. The other few with slightly mature facial features are Tian Yangli, Tian Yanghua, and Tian Yanghao in order. And a particularly outstanding and cold woman among the crowd. Heaven nourishes kindness. The only woman among the 7 siblings. Luo Chen sweeps at them. All of them have the same value. 100, Ja, Toni, is your mother completely better now? She won't be uncomfortable with the environment, will she? Luo Chen asked. It's okay. Thank you, Brother Chen. Thanks to Brother Chen's money and efforts, she's okay as an elderly person. The Scumbag replied with a grateful expression on his face. Toni and Ahu also looked grateful to Luo Chen. Luo Chen smiled and nodded. Toni's 3 brothers may be cruel and ruthless towards enemies and friends, but they are very filial to their mother. Just as he was about to speak, a loud roar came from him. Liangzi Chen. I'm here, why don't you come and entertain me quickly? 03 Expansion. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The arrogant roar subsided. A middle-aged man with a face full of flesh and a cut, appearing fierce and domineering, walked in. Behind him, there are over 50 people. Chingu, it's Ba Guan from the neighboring street. This street thug has been trying to attack our territory for a long time. Why don't we take advantage of it today to kill him? Collect his territory. The fierce gaze of Tian Yangyi's eyes flashed away, and he spoke softly. Luo Chen smiled noncommittally and looked at Ba Guan, saying, Ba Guan, are you bringing so many people here to drink or to cause trouble? Ba Guan laughed heartily and said, Liang Zaken, you know what I'm here for. Surrender obediently, erase your small name, and switch to my sect. I'll protect your wealth and status. How about that? Luo Chen narrowed his eyes slightly and pretended to dig out his ear, saying, Ba Shu, did you eat shit tonight? Your mouth smells so bad. Take your old wood in your mouth. How did you talk to my boss? Before Ba Guan could say a word, a younger brother behind him couldn't wait to stand up and express himself. As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of the 7 siblings, including Tian Yangshen and Toni, completely cooled down. Luo Chen waved his hand and smiled, saying, "Ba Guan, you don't understand the rules, and your little brother doesn't understand the rules either. According to our identity, both you and I are leaders. Your little brother has the right to speak. So it seems that you don't have much authority as a leader." Ba Guan coldly glanced at the little brother. The little brother gave a smirk, shrunk his neck, and retreated. Ba Guan snorted coldly and said, "Liangzaken, what kind of fresh radish skin are you? My little brother even looks up to you when he talks to you. In one sentence, do you want to join me and Honglian?" Honglian is the prefix of Ba Guan. A long time ago, the power of Honglian was also decent, but after so many years, it has been passed down to Ba Shusho, and it has changed beyond what it used to be. Currently, Ba Guan only occupies 2 streets in Sham Shuipe, with a maximum of no more than 100 people and horses under his command, which is just a facade. Relying on you. With such a loud tone, you still don't recognize that you ate shit. Luo Chen pointed to him and said with a mocking expression on his face. Diao. Before the following words could be finished, Luo Chen's figure had already moved. Bang. After a muffled sound, Ba Guan spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards like a broken kite, hitting the little brother behind him. This formed a domino effect, and the younger brothers who were hit by him fell to the ground one after another. "If your mouth smells bad, don't come out of this world." Luo Chen snorted coldly. Before the words could be finished, the 3 brothers of Toni, Tian Yangshen, and 6 others had already pounced like tigers descending the mountain. Oh my! Ah! With the skills of Toni's 3 brothers, combined with the skills of Tian Yangshen and 6 other siblings, even if Ba Guan brought more than 50 people, there were still more than 30 people outside the door, it wouldn't be enough for them to warm up for long. Moreover, under Luo Chen's command, there are not completely no subordinates. Inside and outside the bar, there are also nearby stalls, as well as Luo Chen's little brother in his 50s. When Ba Guan had already brought people over, Luo Chen's younger brother quickly gathered and surrounded Ba Guan and others. In less than 5 minutes, nearly 100 people in Ba Guan fell to the ground and howled, or all surrendered with their heads in arms, under the siege of Tian Yangshen, Toni and others, as well as Luo Chen's younger brother. At this moment, Ba Guan had not yet regained his breath. "Ba Guan, I'll spare your life this time. Go away." Luo Chen casually threw down a sentence, and Ba Guan's younger brother quickly carried him and ran away. "Liang Zichen. Wait for me. I will come back for revenge." Ba Guan, who had slightly regained consciousness, didn't forget to put down a harsh sentence. "Come back for revenge. You'll have to survive tonight." Luo Chen sneered and murmured to himself. His words were also heard by Toni and others. Originally, there were some who didn't understand why Luo Chen let go of Ba Guan, but suddenly they knew that Luo Chen had some plans. Luo Chen looked around them and said in a solemn tone, "Gangs compete for territory, and fighting is inevitable. It doesn't have any major consequences to beat or injure people, but if you cause a loss of life in public, it's not a trivial matter. I know your personality, and you all have a strong fighting spirit. I don't care how you have been in the past. Since you are currently in this environment, there are some necessary game rules to pay attention to." Tian Yangshen's mind reacted quickly, and his eyes lit up as he said, "So, what do you mean, Brother Chen? As long as you don't cause a public uproar, don't let the bad guys find a handle, and don't let anyone see, then it doesn't matter what you do." Luo Chen smiled and said, "You said that, I didn't say it." Haha. Although Luo Chen vehemently denied it, Tian Yangshen and the others were not fools and immediately understood Luo Chen's meaning. If you want to stay here safely, achieve success, and become a person, remember, there are some things that cannot be done in public. Luo Chen instructed again. Understood. Brother Chen. Everyone spoke in unison. Okay, Toni, I'll leave it to you. Don't leave anything behind, understand? Starting tonight, I'll take you to compete in Xiangjiang. Luo Chen glanced at Toni and ordered. As soon as everyone heard Luo Chen's bold words, they all showed excited smiles. After hibernating for nearly half a month, everyone was waiting for Luo Chen's words. They also know that Luo Chen will never be the master of fun. Toni nodded excitedly when he heard what Luo Chen said. He is indeed feeling a bit frustrated during these days. Now is the perfect time to showcase your skills. It's night, Ba Shua Dai. But who died at the hands of others is untraceable. On that night, the power of Sham Shui Put changed and alarmed many people's attention. Luo Chen's sphere of influence has expanded from 1 street to 3 streets. Including the 2 streets of Ba Guan, expanding rapidly. A shipment of 0.430 million yuan. Longmen is established. Exchange skills. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chenggu, we found something good in Ba Guan's lair. It's worth a lot. Toni returned to the bar and said mysteriously to Luo Chen. Is it Sizai? Luo Chen casually turned the wine glass on the table and said. Toni paused for a moment and said, Brother Chen, did you guess so quickly? Luo Chen smiled and didn't answer the words. He just said, you should have brought them all back, right? Toni snapped his fingers and said, Brother Chen, you had a good idea. It's in the trunk right now. Brother Chen, don't worry, when you find this batch of goods, no one except I will know. Luo Chen shook his head and said, let's talk about it later. Let's take over Ba Guan's territory first. Once Sheng and the others come back, I will make my own arrangements. Toni was puzzled for a moment, but if Luo Chen didn't say anything, he wouldn't be able to ask further. At around 3 o'clock in the morning, Tian Yangshen and his team returned. Luo Chen summoned them and said, Toni has taken back a batch of 4 boys from Ba Guan, worth about 30 million yuan. Hiss. Tian Yangji, who was poor and afraid, took a cold breath upon hearing this. Then, his eyes lit up. The scumbag who has touched this thing before is even more eye-catching. Those present may only have a slightly more natural understanding of Tian Yang and Tian Yang. Luo Chen kept their expressions in his eyes. After their excitement weakened slightly, Luo Chen said, do you think that as long as we scatter this batch of goods, we won't have to worry about money anymore? Ah Hu, with a simple mind, immediately nodded and said, of course it is. 30 million. 30 million. Jia Gu also said, Chen Gu, if you want to get rich quickly now, Sizai is the best channel. I have sold this thing in you before, and the profit is amazing. Luo Chen nodded and turned to look at Tian Yangzi and the others, saying, do you also think so? Tian Yangzi and others exchanged a glance and instinctively nodded. Toni, Tian Yang, Tian Yang, and Tian Yanzhen were more careful. He noticed that Luo Chen's expression and tone were slightly different from usual, so he didn't rush to express his opinion. Luo Chen glanced at them and said earnestly, Sizai is a way of making money through sudden profits, which is something even fools know. But let's not touch this thing. This sentence was like a thunderbolt on the ground, causing everyone to be confused. Ah! Brother Chen, why? Ahu hurriedly said. He has a relatively simple mind and immediately becomes anxious. Zhuge and Tian Yangzi were also full of incomprehension. Luo Chen shook his head slightly and said, Sitzi, it has always been the most important thing that the poor have dealt a blow to. Even if you can make fast money or big money, do you dare to guarantee that you will have a life to enjoy it? Anything, as long as it breaks the bottom line, will play with fire and burn itself. Money, we want to make, but some money that should not be made cannot even be touched. Brother Chen, it's a pity that this unfounded windfall has slipped from under your nose. Brother Jia sighed and said. Luo Chen gave him a determined glance and said, even if I don't touch Sizai, I have countless ways to help you get rich, and it's a wealth that can see light, not these black money that cannot see light. With Luo Chen's eyes and the current world, his words really have no element of boasting. In the late 1980s, even in simple snack industries such as textiles, clothing and accessories, real estate, cruise ferries, engineering, etc., Luo Chen had countless ways to help them make big money. "Brother Chen, are you telling the truth?" Tian Yangshen couldn't help but ask. Luo Chen nodded and said, "Don't you believe me? Of course it's true. I spent a lot of money to make you settle in Xiangjiang, from an unknown person to a legitimate citizen. It's not to make you a wanted criminal. Remember, even if we smuggle weapons, we must never touch the others. Also, in the future, restrain your brave and aggressive personality, and never do anything out of bounds in public. Understood?" "Yes. Brother Chen." Everyone quickly responded. "Also, let me announce another important event." Luo Chen spoke solemnly. Tian Yangshen and others immediately turned their attention and listened. "Starting today, our prefix will be officially changed from Heshenzhi to Longmen. Luo Chen spoke forcefully and forcefully. "Longmen. Longmen. Descendants of dragons." Tian Yangshen murmured to himself. "That's right. If you want to make a name for yourself, you have to use a name that others dare not use." Although Longmen sounds a bit tacky, it also appears domineering. Luo Chen smiled and said. "Longmen. Longmen. Alright, our gang will be called Longmen in the future." "Huh, I see who dares to touch our Longmen in the future." Toni burst out laughing. Luo Chen said, "Spread the news. It's time to rest and integrate the territory. Let's integrate the territory overnight." "Yes, Brother Chen." The crowd responded with a loud roar. As the others left, Toni, who was 2 steps behind, turned his head and asked Luo Chen, "Brother Chen, what should we do with that batch of goods?" Luo Chen waved his hand and said, "Take it in and I will handle it myself." Toni nodded and, taking advantage of the darkness, brought in 2 bags of goods and handed them to Luo Chen. Luo Chen asked him to rest and take a look at the 2 bags of goods in front of him, but couldn't help but laugh. Goods worth 30 million yuan. Even if he doesn't sell it, it can be used to exchange skills for money. Just keep it for 7 days. 7 days later, the system will automatically recover this batch of goods. What he needs to think about now is, what skill can he exchange for 3,000 universal skills? 05 Goodbye, little Jewish. You are listening at novelfull.audio. An hour later, Luo Chen drove alone to the estate in Yaomati, carrying 2 bags. After parking the car in the corner, observing the surroundings and confirming that there was no one nearby, Luo Chen quickly picked up 2 bags of goods and walked into the estate as fast as a ghost. The newly found place is on the 7th floor. Housing estates are a unique product of Xiangjiang. That is, public housing. Those living in public housing are undoubtedly civilians. And over 99% of these people are from poor families. Luo Chen used some means to choose this place as the location for the Cunning Rabbit's 3 caves, which naturally makes sense. The buildings of public housing are all intricate and have no neat planning to speak of. Therefore, hiding things or people here is enough secrecy. 708 is the public housing room that Luo Chen found. It was already past 5 a.m., approaching 6 a.m., and the corridor with only a few lights was incredibly dim. Everyone is already asleep. Even those who wake up early almost wake up after 6 o'clock. Luo Chen is not afraid to wake up the people next door. However, Luo Chen still carefully opened the door to avoid causing any major disturbance and attracting attention. After opening the door, there was a small room of only a dozen square meters inside. A toilet, a small kitchen, and then the living room is the room, and the room is the living room. Luo Chen doesn't live here either, he just hides things, so he doesn't pay much attention to it. After hiding 2 bags of goods in a secret place, Luo Chen walked out of the door and was locking the door. Suddenly, the door of the neighboring room opened. Luo Chen, who happened to be going out, met the person who walked out of the next room with 4 eyes. "Is it you?" The sound of surprise rang out. Luo Chen gave a smile. "This is somewhat coincidental." The neighbor next door to the new house in Luo Chen turned out to be a little Jewish person, Ruan Mei. She lives in 709. She still wears simple clothes, but it cannot conceal her stunning and refined appearance and temperament. "Do you live here? Are you a new move-in?" Ruan Mei asked happily. Luo Chen nodded and said, "I just moved something over, but I haven't started living here yet." Perhaps it was the heroic act of Luo Chen to save her beauty that didn't make Ruan Mei think too much of it. Ruan Mei took a few steps forward and quickly said to Luo Chen, "Today." "Oh, it must have been last night. I haven't thanked you yet. Now that we are neighbors again, haven't you had breakfast yet? Why don't you come in and sit down? I'll cook breakfast for you." As she spoke, she quickly grabbed Luo Chen's wrist and walked towards her room, as if afraid of his opposition. Luo Chen touched his nose and thought to himself, "You seem to be leading a wolf into the house." However, this also suits Luo Chen's wishes perfectly. If the little Jewish person were to let go, it would be unacceptable. How could Fang Zhanbo be? How could he deserve the heart of a little Jewish person? After arriving at Ruan Mei's house, it seemed that because Luo Chen didn't refuse, Ruan Mei was in a good mood and smiled like a flower, saying, "You sit down first, pour yourself some water to drink. I'll cook breakfast soon." As she spoke, she hurriedly walked into the kitchen, as if afraid that Luo Chen would refuse again. Luo Chen looked at her graceful figure and couldn't help but shake his head and smirk. Take a look at Ruan Mei's room. The layout is not very different from her own, but the things are arranged in an orderly manner, without any feeling of dirt or disorder. It's truly my daughter's room. It is truly the home of a diligent and frugal little Jewish household. Ah. Is the room a bit messy? Don't mind, there are too many things and the space is too small, there's nothing we can do. In the kitchen, Ruan Mei saw Luo Chen looking around her room and couldn't help but explain with some nervousness. As for why she suddenly explained, she couldn't explain clearly and couldn't explain. Is it because of Luo Chen's handsome appearance, decent height and special temperament? Definitely not. Although she has not seen many excellent men, this is by no means the reason why she feels lost and uneasy. Perhaps it's because of his life-saving grace. Luo Chen smiled and said, "If this room is considered messy, then what I live in is probably a dog house." Puzzling. Ruan Mei couldn't help but laugh. In an instant, like 100 flowers blooming, even the rudimentary kitchen suddenly shone brightly. "I didn't expect you to be so cool and free-spirited last night. You used to speak very humorously." Ruan Mei boiled water and spoke to Luo Chen. Luo Chen smiled and said, "That's because he's facing a beautiful woman. If he's a big guy with a button foot, I'll definitely have a straight face." Puzzle. Ruan Mei couldn't help but laugh again. If she heard such frivolous words as usual, she would definitely get angry. But this was what Luo Chen said, so she ignored it and took it as a compliment. So, handsome guys, coupled with preconceived impressions, are also very important. Do I have to thank you for your praise? By the way, what flavor would you like to eat? There's beef brisket. There's. Before the following words could be finished, Ruan Mei suddenly turned black in front of her, with a feeling of spinning around. The whole person couldn't help but fall down in despair. Luo Chen frowned slightly, his figure flickered, and quickly caught Ruan Mei. Faint. Is it a recurrence of heart disease? Upon a brief examination, Luo Chen immediately noticed that Ruan Mei had passed out and couldn't help but think of her illness. Luo Chen didn't dare to neglect, turned off the gas, picked her up, closed the door, quickly got out of the car downstairs, and raced to take Ruan Mei to the nearby St. Mary's Hospital. Sham Shui Pe. Funeral parlor. A middle-aged man dressed in an orange suit and looking carefree stood in front of Ba Guan's body, with a mournful expression on his face. Liang Kuan. Hongxing Society, Wan Chai Fit People. After receiving the news of Ba Guan's death, Liang Kuan was shocked and quickly came to check the truth. Unexpectedly, Ba Guan, who was still on the phone with him tonight, actually hung up. Kuan Gu, death cannot bring us back to life. Let's mourn and adapt accordingly. The pretty woman next to Liang Kuan saw her sorrowful expression and quickly comforted her. $65 billion, treating congenital heart disease. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Kuan, I know Ba Guan is your sworn brother, but now that everyone is dead, don't be too sad. The beautiful woman comforted Liang Kuan once again when she saw her expression of grief and despair. Pop. Unexpectedly, the sorrowful Liang Kuan suddenly gave her a slap and slapped her to the ground. Liang Kuan said coldly, sad. I hurt you, Lao Mu. This sausage has taken my 30 million goods and has not paid me yet. He hung up. Who should I ask for money? After a pause, he waved to the beautiful woman who had just stood up, gesturing for her to come over, then pressed her down and sneered, I'm very angry now, it's easy to hurt myself. As he spoke, he turned his head to look at his younger brother Xiaoxiong behind him and asked, find out who killed Ba Guan. Xiaoxiong is the head of Liang Kuan, with a face full of whiskers and a clearly anxious appearance. He turned a blind eye to everything in front of him and quickly replied, we haven't found out who actually did it yet, but tonight Ba Guan had a fight with Liang Zichen from Sham Shui Pe and lost. If we were to say who had the most chance to do it, only Liang Zichen would be the biggest suspect, but we can't find evidence. Pretty little dust. Who? Liang Kuan clearly had not heard of Luo Chen's name, and immediately became extremely puzzled. Chang replied, Liang Zichen's full name is Luo Chen. He used to be a small character and was the second in command of Xinxin. After his boss hung up, he became the leader. Oh, by the way, Liang Zichen now renames Xinxin to Longmen. The name of this gang is very arrogant. Longmen. Hee, what a big breath. Want a fish to leap over Longmen. Fantastic. Liang Kuan sneered incessantly. Chang hesitated for a moment and said, Boss, now that Liang Zichen has taken over Ba Guan's territory, it is very likely that our goods will fall into the hands of Liang Zichen. How about we mobilize people to come and eliminate Liang Zichen? Liang Kuan frowned and shook his head, saying, the biggest force in Sham Shui Pe is Liang Mama. Liang Mama has always been difficult to deal with me. If we rashly mobilize people to come over, Liang Mama will definitely be the first to act as a scapegoat. Liang Ma, one of the elders of Hongxing society, and also a fitting person of Hongxing in Sham Shui Pe. But our goods can't be cheap for nothing, pretty guy. Chang said. Liang Kuan took a long breath and said, you're right. Whether it's Liang Zichen who took my goods or not, as long as he's suspicious, he can't be let go. But this thing can't be made too public, otherwise everyone knows that Ba Guan's goods are mine. Do you think of any way to deal with Liang Zichen without our people? After thinking for a moment, Chang's eyes lit up and he said, I can find someone. As long as the handsome guy Chen dies, his so-called Dragon Gate will naturally disperse. Then, we can take advantage of the situation and take over his territory. Well, that's it. Remember to find someone reliable to take action. Liang Kuan advised. Don't worry, big shot. The person I'm looking for is definitely capable. If it weren't for his rebellious behavior, I would have wanted to bring him to our camp. Chang said. Hiss. That's it. Speed up. Liang Kuan took a cold breath. I'll do it right away. Xiang dared not neglect and immediately turned around and left. In St. Mary's Hospital. The doctor only finished the examination when Ruan Mei woke up. Seeing herself in the ward, standing next to Luo Chen, Ruan Mei's pale face unexpectedly flashed with a look of panic. Luo Chen shook his head and said, "Just wake up, it's okay." "Did the doctor tell you anything?" Ruan Mei said anxiously. Luo Chen nodded and said, "At first, the doctor refused to tell me. I said I was your boyfriend, and it was only then that he told me the truth." Ruan Mei was stunned for a moment, her pale face suddenly turned red, but she appeared to have a little more blood on her pretty face. She hesitated for a moment, lowered her eyes and asked, "Do you know I have congenital heart disease?" Luo Chen nodded and said softly. Ruan Mei remained silent. In the ward, there was a sudden silence. "Thank you for taking me to the hospital." You go, I'm fine." After a while, Ruan Mei gently gritted her teeth and said. "You don't seem to know my name yet, do you?" Luo Chen smiled without hesitation and said. Ruan Mei mustered up her courage to say this, but she never expected Luo Chen to answer the wrong question. Luo Chen smiled and said, "I don't even know the name of my boyfriend." "Isn't that too incompetent? When the doctor comes later, won't it be a case of cheating?" Ruan Mei's pretty face turned red again and she whispered, "Don't joke anymore." "I know my own business, you." Luo Chen interrupted, "Is it because you have congenital heart disease that you refuse to travel thousands of miles?" Luo Chen waved his hand and gently sat next to her, pulling up her delicate hand and interrupting again, "I understand. Your man's name is Luo Chen, the Luo of the Luo god, the dust of the mortal world. Once my promise is spoken, it will never change. Since you have met me, it is our lifelong fate." But Ruan Mei's pretty face turned even redder, and as her heartstrings swayed, she didn't even realize she wanted to shake off Luo Chen's hand, nor did she know what to say. Luo Chen shook his head gently and said, "It's just a congenital heart disease. It can always be cured. Trust me, okay?" He didn't talk big. In terms of current medical skills, even decades later, the probability of congenital heart disease being cured is less than 1 in 10,000. But Luo Chen has a Krypton gold system, anything is possible. In fact, at the moment when Ruan Mei fell into a coma, Luo Chen had already checked the system and found a miraculous cure for congenital heart disease. However, the price is too expensive. A pill, $5 billion. At present, even if Luo Chen is sold, the amount cannot be obtained. But it doesn't matter, there's still time. Just give him time to raise these $5 billion, it's just a process. Ruan Mei looked steadily at Luo Chen, and from his deep and bright eyes, she could see a strong sense of confidence and encouragement. 071 Kiss. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is it expensive to exchange $5 billion for a whole life? Very expensive. It is so expensive that even ordinary people cannot imagine the sky-high price. But is it expensive to exchange $5 billion for a little Jewish person? Not expensive. For Luo Chen, money is just a number. $5 billion, he's not without it. Since we have traveled through this era and world of Hong Kong film fusion, money is not the only one. For ordinary people, perhaps money and beauty are the signs of a man's success. But for Luo Chen now, what he enjoys is just the journey. Of course, the more money he has, the more he won't refuse. But the beauty of this world, being the person around you, being able to accompany you until the end, is much more important than having countless dollars but living alone in old age. In fact, if it were a wealthy person, that would be the same mentality. If there could be a priceless medicine to save their lives, they would rather give their entire lives in exchange for physical and mental health. The money is gone, you can earn more. But when fate is gone, everything really goes with the wind, dust returns to dust, soil returns to soil, everything is external. Money is not brought with life, not taken away with death. At the critical moment of life and death, not to mention using 5 billion spiritual pills to save lives, even if it's sacrificing their loved ones, they will spare no effort. This is human nature. It is also a decision that many people will make at the critical moment of life and death. In fact, in addition to a $5 billion elixir, there are also other ways to treat little Jewish's congenital heart disease. For example, medical skills. But ordinary medical skills are also ineffective for congenital heart disease. To save the little Jew, only divine-level medical skills are possible. Even master-level medical skills are powerless against congenital heart disease. But the gold price of divine medical skills far exceeds that of spiritual medicines, reaching a terrifying level of $20 billion. After all, the scope of treatment covered by divine-level medicine goes far beyond the difficult and incurable condition of congenital heart disease. So currently, the only and quickest way to save the little Jewish person is to exchange krypton for a $5 billion pill. $5 billion sounds distant. But Luo Chen has countless ways to raise this fund in a short period of time. At least, it doesn't take as long as 10 or 8 years. The Ni family loyalty, faithfulness, and righteousness he Xinglian Dongxing wait for the gang, isn't it specifically for the 4th generation. There are also foreign gangs such as the Yamaguchi Gumi and the mafia. Some are channels, and some are funds earned from krypton. Start their endnotes. Even if Luo Chen doesn't sell it, it can still be used to earn money. The most troublesome thing now is that little Jewish's congenital heart disease relapses irregularly and must be stabilized first. In Luo Chen's thoughts, he thought of Guan's 30 million yuan worth of goods. 30 million yuan, to exchange for advanced fortifiers, just right. Advanced fortifiers not only strengthen the body, but also strengthen the internal organs. Among them, it includes the heart. As long as you take advanced fortifiers, little Jewish's heart can maintain stability for at least 3 years without recurrence. But advanced fortifiers can only be taken once, and even if taken repeatedly, they will no longer have any effect. However, in 3 years, it was enough for Luo Chen to raise $5 billion, more than enough. These 30 million yuan were originally intended for exchanging skills, but in 7 days they would be used on little Jude. However, Luo Chen did not feel that it was a waste at all. It's just a skill, as long as there is funds in the future, it can be exchanged at any time. But if the little Jewish person is gone, Luo Chen will regret it for a lifetime. Thoughts may seem distant, but in reality, it's just an instant. Luo Chen regained his senses and saw Ruan Mei staring at him with a glimmer of light in her beautiful eyes. She smiled slightly and said, "Don't worry, in 7 days, I will be able to stabilize your condition. In 3 years, I will be able to cure your heart disease. Leave everything to me, okay?" Although Ruan Mei saw the firmness in Luo Chen's eyes, she still just thought that Luo Chen was comforting her. She knows best about her situation. After asking countless doctors, she even flew abroad to consult with the most outstanding cardiac experts, but all the answers she received were just disappointment. However, Luo Chen was ultimately the first and only man who left the deepest impression in her heart. Faced with Luo Chen's soft and gentle voice, Ruan Mei smiled and shook her head slowly, saying, "Don't worry, I won't give up easily. You don't need to comfort me like this. If I'm not strong, I'll end up in suicide. So, are you still planning to carry it on your own?" Luo Chen recognized the meaning behind her words and frowned slightly. Luo Chen frowned, and Ruan Mei found it difficult to persevere with his deep words. "You have a good impression of me, don't you?" Luo Chen suddenly held her pretty face and stared at her, asking. This sudden scene made Ruan Mei's pretty face completely turn red, and her heart suddenly became flustered, leaving her hands and feet at a loss. But in the next moment, Luo Chen's actions stunned Ruan Mei even more. At the same time, a huge stone was also thrown into Ruan Mei's heart lake, causing countless ripples. In Luo Chen's eyes, what flashed was her blushing face, as if she had been acupointed. It's within reach. One kiss and one heart. Cut through the chaos with a quick knife. At this point, I can't tolerate the little Jewish woman to be so motherly anymore. Luo Chen looked at Ruan Mei with great interest and smiled, now that you have engraved my mark, you will never escape from the palm of my hand in this lifetime. Be obedient and obedient. You. Ruan Mei finally came to her senses, but she spoke incoherently and stuttered. Her gaze dared not even look at Luo Chen. Oh my goodness. What's going on? Even if I can't save you in the end, I can guarantee that the last time following me is also the happiest time of your life. You give me the last time and let me accompany you through it, are you willing? Luo Chen held her pretty face again and said softly. 08 Call me sister.in.law. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Luo Chen's bright eyes, along with his gentle whispers and previous scenes, finally made Ruan Mei, who was still a bit dizzy, nod. Perhaps it was Luo Chen's sincerity, perhaps it was his previous hero who saved the beauty, or perhaps it was Luo Chen's persistence, or perhaps it was Luo Chen's sudden surprise attack that made Ruan Mei let go of her stubbornness and inferiority complex and bravely looked into Luo Chen's eyes. Perhaps having someone accompany you to the finish line is also a different kind of happiness, right? But what if I leave by myself and leave Luo Chen behind? Seeing her nod, Luo Chen couldn't help but laugh and embraced her in his arms. Ruan Mei's figure trembled with surprise, and her pretty face turned even redder. The first time embracing a man, the first time being kissed by a man, everything happened in a short amount of time. After a long time, the knocking on the door finally woke up the two in the warm atmosphere. Ruan Mei instinctively left Luo Chen's embrace and smiled shyly. Come in. Luo Chen blinked at her, making her droop her eyes even more shy. The doctor came in. Seeing Ruan Mei still awake, the doctor looked at Luo Chen and hesitated to speak. Doctor, I know my condition, you can speak frankly. Ruan Mei noticed the doctor's hesitation and instead calmly said. The doctor looked at Luo Chen. Luo Chen nodded slightly. The doctor sighed lightly and said, Miss Ruan, your condition is not very good. This coma is also due to the recurrence of your congenital heart disease, and this situation may occur frequently in the future. Ruan Mei listened quietly without any hint of surprise. It seems that she has become accustomed to it. Luo Chen also did not have a surprised expression. After the doctor finished speaking, he just asked, Doctor, will she be unconscious again in the short term? After thinking for a moment, the doctor said, It's hard to say, but if you keep a good schedule and maintain a good mental state, the situation should be better, but from now on. Luo Chen interrupted, Okay, I understand. Thank you, doctor. Could you please help her with the discharge procedures? Are you discharged now? The doctor exclaimed in surprise. Ruan Mei was clearly stunned for a moment. But she was still delighted to be discharged from the hospital. Firstly, hospitalization in the hospital costs money. Secondly, she really doesn't like the smell of hospitals. That's right, not many people will like the taste of hospitals. Yes, discharge now. Luo Chen said decisively. The doctor still wanted to persuade, but seeing Luo Chen's resolute expression, he knew that Luo Chen had made up his mind, so he had to shake his head and leave to help Ruan Mei complete the discharge procedures. Half an hour later, the two of them left the hospital. No matter how Ruan Mei thought, Luo Chen held her hand dominantly and strolled towards the parking lot. It seems that Ruan Mei's heart knot has opened up. After experiencing initial discomfort and a slight blush on her pretty face, she seems to have become accustomed to Luo Chen's domineering behavior. She just glares at him angrily and allows him to hold her delicate hand. I haven't cooked breakfast for you yet. If I go back now, I can still make it in time. Ruan Mei took a deep breath of the fresh air outside and her mood improved a lot. It's just less than 9 in the morning now, and it seems like it's still time to have breakfast. Luo Chen shook his head and said, I won't go back for now. I'll take you to another place for breakfast. Where are we going? Breakfast outside is very expensive. Let's go back and cook it ourselves. Ruan Mei subconsciously said. The stingy girl's personality was immediately revealed. Luo Chen chuckled and said, Don't you want to know who I am? What do I do? The place I took you to is the most authentic environment for my survival. To Luo Chen's surprise, Ruan Mei shook her head and said, No matter what you do, I don't mind. Even if you kill someone, I will help you escape. Because you are the man I have chosen. Damn it. A pile of love words remained unspoken, but were moved by Ruan Mei's unintentional and sincere words. So you won't be the running accomplice of the killer anymore. Luo Chen joked. Ruan Mei mischievously smiled and said, There is a saying that goes like this. If you love someone, you should hope they are good. Instead of letting them go to jail, it's better to give them a chance to start over. Damn it. Are you currently picking up girls yourself, or are girls picking up yourself? It's over. This topic cannot continue any further. Luo Chen chuckled and pulled her onto the car, then headed straight to the headquarters of Sham Shui Po. Bar. Ruan Mei was surprised to see that the parking spot was at the entrance of the bar. Is the bar open so early? Moreover, going to a bar to drink is very expensive. Luo Chen saw her confusion, but didn't explain anything. He just pulled her into the bar entrance. Brother Chen. Brother Chen. Along the way, respectful greetings kept coming. Luo Chen smiled and nodded, gesturing to Ruan Mei, saying, Call me sister-in-law. 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 These little brothers are undoubtedly eye-catching talents. Although surprised by Ruan Mei's stunning beauty and purity, they quickly realized and kept shouting the words, sister-in-law. Moreover, the sound has significantly improved. Ruan Mei was completely bewildered by this battle. After feeling confused, I couldn't help blushing again. Sister-in-law. After entering the bar, perhaps due to my younger brother's notification, Tian Yangshen and Tian Yangyi, among others, were all welcoming Luo Chen respectfully. Ha! Brother Chen has finally brought back a sister-in-law. Hello sister-in-law. The heartless Ahu shouted out first. Then, the term sister-in-law kept ringing in the mouths of Tian Yangshen and others. Ruan Mei was at a loss again by this battle. Sister-in-law. The last sound sounded from Tian Yangshen's mouth. But the dim light that flashed through her eyes did not even pay attention to the most meticulous care of health preservation. The only person who noticed this scene was Tian Yangyi, who was diagonally opposite Tian Yangshen. Tian Yangyi furrowed his brow slightly and let out a deep sigh in his heart. Little sister, you originally had such thoughts. 09 Luo Tianhong is here. Make a bet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Let me introduce you to Ruan Mei, your sister-in-law. Luo Chen introduced. Then he introduced Tian Yangshen and others one by one. Hello. Ruan Mei greeted politely. Despite her various doubts, it was clearly not the right time to ask. Luo Chen saw her confusion and said, I'll explain it to you later. Ruan Mei nodded. Luo Chen asked Tian Health and Toni, among others, have you received all of Bogwan's territory? Tian Yangshen replied, after receiving it, those who dare to resist will be dealt with by us. Luo Chen nodded and said, how many new recruits are there? Before letting them take over the territory, Luo Chen instructed that Bogwan's manpower could receive it appropriately. Also, it's important to recruit some new buddies as soon as possible. Taking advantage of the trend of shutting down the Qin, it is not difficult to recruit some younger brothers. There is no shortage of high-end combat power on our side now, but having only high-end combat power is not a solution. Many things ultimately require some people to do. Tian Yangshen said, after screening, the people on the Baguan side have received more than 30 people, and the new ones have received more than 70 people. Speaking of this, he hesitated to speak. What's wrong? Luo Chen asked. Tian Yangshen hesitated for a moment and said, Brother Chen, the people from Baguan's side and the newly recruited younger brother have all gone through our preliminary screening, but to be honest, we all look down on them. They use force without force, and if they are useful, they are useless. I think the value of soldiers lies in their essence, not in their abundance. This statement drew unanimous agreement from Scumbag, Toni, and Tian Yangshen. Luo Chen smiled and said, Do you think I'm going to take them all under the door? Tian Yangshen and others knew that Luo Chen had more to say, so they remained silent. People, we definitely need to expand. Otherwise, if we expand our territory, how can we have manpower to manage it? But you are also right, the value of soldiers lies in their excellence, not in their abundance. So, your current advantages can be fully utilized. Luo Chen said. Tian Yangshen and others looked at each other, some puzzled by Luo Chen's words. Luo Chen smiled and said, What is your biggest advantage? All of you have received military training. Since that's the case, why don't you use this advantage to select talents? For example, for Baguan's existing subordinates and newly recruited subordinates, test their endurance and resilience first, and let them run 5 kilometers and 10 kilometers first. During this process, you can also observe their character and other aspects. Oh, we understand. Upon hearing these words, Tian Yangshen and others suddenly realized. Under this test, it is clear at a glance whether it is a talent or a coward. People and horses, we still need to constantly recruit, but from now on, we only need elite soldiers and don't just mess around. In this regard, you can see. Luo Chen instructed. Understood. Everyone nodded. Ah. Ouch. Who is Liansheng? At this moment, several screams came from the door. Then, an arrogant voice immediately sounded. Luo Chen and everyone turned their heads and saw that the first person to enter the bar entrance was a skinny young man who was extremely eye-catching. A head of blue hair, especially the flowing C in front of the forehead, is exceptionally blue, slanting slightly over the left eye, appearing cold, and some are not mainstream. Another eye-catching feature is that he carries an ancient long sword on his shoulder, with a rebellious and arrogant expression on his face. If it weren't for his unconventional hairstyle and modern attire, people might have thought he had traveled from some ancient time. Behind him, there were over 20 younger brothers, all of whom were young people. Like him, they were all very arrogant, with a rebellious and unruly expression on their faces. Blue hair, quaint long sword, 8-sided Han sword. Luo Tianhong. With the opponent's iconic blue hair and long sword, Luo Chen instantly recognized that the person in front of him was 100% Luo Tianhong. Dozens of people stormed in, startling Ruan Mei next to Luo Chen and instinctively hiding behind him. Luo Chen frowned slightly and said, You scared my wife. Oh, it seems like you're just a pretty kid. Coincidentally, you found the main owner. With a nonchalant expression on her face, Luo Tianhong said, I'm not afraid to tell you. Someone offered me 100,000 yuan to take you down. I took on this business. So, I'm here to find you. Tell me, should I take action or should you decide on your own? Arrogant. Extremely arrogant. Undoubtedly worthy of being an unparalleled general who will fight alone with one sword against over 100 people in the future. Tian Yangshen and others remained motionless, but their faces had clearly become cold, and a murderous intent kept flashing in their eyes. 100,000. Luo Chen smiled. Surprisingly, I am only worth 100,000 yuan. It seems that one's own worth should be revealed as soon as possible. How much do you know about me? Are you afraid of dying without a place to bury yourself when you take on business so recklessly? Luo Chen said calmly. Luo Tianhong sneered and said, pretty Xikan, a so-dot called big shot with a small character, just defeated Baguan last night and took over Baguan's territory. Is that all? It seems like I've done some homework, but it's not enough. Luo Chen narrowed his eyes and smiled. Before you came, did you ever think that you would fail? After failing, what would happen? Luo Tianhong impatiently waved her hand and said, stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and take action. If you don't take action, I'll take action. After I've taken care of you, I'll tidy up and prepare to go to Zhong Xinyi. I'm not afraid to tell you, you're my last business deal. Loyalty, faithfulness, and righteousness. Liansheng. Luo Chen said. Nonsense, besides the loyal and faithful Liansheng, who else has the right to let me follow? Luo Tianhong snorted coldly. Perhaps there is another person worth following. Luo Chen looked at him meaningfully and said. Is there another person? You don't know how to talk about yourself, do you? This joke is the funniest one I've ever heard. Luo Tianhong was stunned for a moment, then understood Luo Chen's meaning and burst into laughter. Laughter, full of ridicule and disdain. Don't believe it. Then let's make a bet. Luo Chen ignored his mockery and said lightly. However, no one could see the fleeting conspiracy in his eyes. 10 Conquer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bet. Why are you betting on me? Luo Tianhong disdainfully said. You dare not. Luo Chen sneered and asked in response. I dare not. What do I dare not to do? What do I bet on? How do I bet? Tell me. Luo Tianhong said coldly. Indeed, for young people, motivating others is one of the best ways. Luo Chen shrugged and said, it's very simple. Within 3 moves, I'll take your sword and I'll win. On the other hand, I'll lose. After you lose, you don't have to rely on Liansheng as my younger brother. I believe with my strength, I'm qualified to let you follow. Take my sword within 3 moves. What a big breath. Luo Tianhong angrily asked in reverse. Although it is not like in ancient times, where the sword is with people, the sword is lost and people die. But as a young master who has been practicing swordsmanship for more than 10 years, it is undoubtedly a shame to be taken away by someone within 3 moves. In one sentence, gambling or not gambling? Luo Chen shrugged his shoulders and asked with ease. Luo Tianhong must have accepted it. Once Luo Tianhong recognizes herself as a big shot, she will never betray her for life. The loyalty of Luo Tianhong can be seen from his adherence to Liansheng, being surrounded by the enemy and not surrendering, and not betraying at the moment of death. In other words, once Luo Chen takes Luo Tianhong, he doesn't even need to look at his numerical value to confirm Luo Tianhong's loyalty. Okay. I bet. I want you to lose and be convinced. Luo Tianhong shouted, and the 8-sided Han sword on her shoulder suddenly unsheathed, pointing diagonally at Luo Chen. The cold light is shining brightly, it is a rare sword. At this moment, Luo Tianhong's momentum suddenly soared, sharp, fierce, and terrifying to the extreme. The expert knows if there is a trick at hand. Tian Yangshen and Toni and others suddenly changed their indifferent expressions. They could already see that the young man in front of them was a master. A sword in hand is even more terrifying. As is well known, having weapons in hand is far more intimidating than having experts of the same level without weapons in hand. And experts with weapons in hand can even challenge themselves beyond their level. Seeing Luo Tianhong's 8-sided Han sword suddenly emerge from its sheath and point diagonally at Luo Chen, Ruan Mei became nervous and instinctively pulled Luo Chen's hand. Luo Chen turned his head and smiled slightly, saying, "Don't worry, it will be over in at most 2 minutes. There will be another person calling you sister.in.law in the future. Well. Be careful." Ruan Mei gritted her teeth and hesitated for a moment, but ultimately did not stop Luo Chen. This is the character of the little Jewish person. Once they decide to follow someone, they will definitely support them unconditionally. Luo Chen nodded and asked her to step back a bit. Tian Yangshen hesitated for a moment, but eventually stepped forward to protect her and walked to the side. Humph. I'm not afraid of the strong wind, so I'll dodge my waist. Come on, what weapon are you using? Luo Tianhong sneered. Luo Chen raised his hand and shrugged, saying, to deal with you, bare hands and empty fists are enough. Come on, don't waste your time. As he spoke, he waved to Luo Tianhong. This gesture that looked down upon people completely ignited the highest level of anger in Luo Tianhong's heart. He no longer hesitated, his figure moved, and like a ghost, he bullied himself in front of Luo Chen. The eight-faced Han sword, like lightning, stabbed straight at Luo Chen's throat. This sword cannot be described as brilliant and swift. Next to the battlefield, Tian Yangshen and others pondered, can they not only dodge this move, but also forcefully accept it? The answer is, even with bare hands, they dare not take it hard. Unless there are weapons in hand. Otherwise, we can only dodge. As the cold light of the eight-faced Han sword flickered, it pierced Luo Chen's throat at an indistinguishable speed with the naked eye, and arrived in the blink of an eye. Ruan Mei almost closed her eyes when she saw this scene. But out of concern that Luo Chen's thoughts had the upper hand, she still stubbornly stared at the battlefield. If it weren't for her fear of affecting Luo Chen, she might have screamed uncontrollably. As the eight-faced Han sword was about to pierce Luo Chen's throat, Luo Chen remained indifferent and stood still, seemingly completely unresponsive. Luo Tianhong disdains to sneer. Is that all? Dare to bet with him too? I don't know how to live or die. Just as the tip of the sword was about to reach, two fingers appeared at the tip of the eight-faced Han sword, as if they were visitors from outside the world. Later, just like Lu Xiaofeng's ultimate move in martial arts novels, with a sharp finger, it was perfectly sandwiched between the front and back of the sword tip. How could this be possible? Luo Tianhong's heart was greatly shocked, and she instinctively changed her moves, sweeping and flipping the sword, wanting to cut off Luo Chen's finger. No matter how hard he exerted himself, the eight-faced Han sword was firmly sandwiched between Luo Chen's fingers, motionless. Impossible. Luo Tianhong was shocked and let out a sound, but her reaction was quick. She kicked out with a piercing sound, forcing Luo Chen to let go. But he's fast, Luo Chen's movements are faster. Luo Tianhong's foot was just kicked out, and Luo Chen's figure had already disappeared into place. When it reappeared, Luo Chen's figure had already arrived in front of Luo Tianhong. The King of Hell hands 3 times. Luo Chen's fingertips were as fast as lightning on Luo Tianhong's right wrist. A sharp pain came, and Luo Tianhong instinctively let go. The eight-faced Han sword instantly drops. Luo Chen raised his hand and grabbed the eight-faced Han sword in his hand. Then, the tip of the sword reversed and hit Luo Tianhong's throat. One move. You lost. Luo Chen smiled slightly and said. At this moment, contrary to Luo Chen's smile, Luo Tianhong's eyes instantly faded and she stood in place like a wooden chicken, her face dark. I think you shouldn't admit defeat, I'll give you a chance, come again. Luo Chen smiled and handed him the eight-faced Han sword. Luo Tianhong regained her senses and was stunned for a moment. Her mind turned and she looked straight at the eight-faced Han sword in Luo Chen's hand. Seriously. After a while, Luo Tianhong took a deep breath and slowly said. Luo Chen nodded nonchalantly. Luo Tianhong slowly took the eight-faced Han sword. You can take action anytime. Luo Chen waved and gestured. Luo Tianhong's eyes flickered as she unleashed her strongest sword move. At that moment, the sound of breaking through the sky suddenly rose. The cold light startled like lightning. Faced with this move, Luo Chen also praised it from the bottom of his heart. At the age of less than 20, Luo Tianhong is truly a person with unparalleled talent for practicing swordsmanship to this level. Since that's the case, let him submit even more. Luo Chen is still in place. When the eight-faced Han sword attacked, Luo Chen raised his right hand and twisted his finger, unexpectedly tilting the eight-faced Han sword in a divine way. The tremendous force from the sword instantly made Luo Tianhong's wrist feel numb. Before he could react, his figure had already flown out. And the eight-faced Han sword once again fell into Luo Chen's hand. Come again. Luo Chen threw the eight-faced Han sword to him and gestured with a wave of his hand. Just now he only used skillful force, and Luo Tianhong was almost unscathed, absolutely capable of fighting again. But to his surprise, Luo Tianhong, who had fallen and quickly turned over, did not attack again. She just stood still for more than 10 seconds, and then her eyes lit up as she looked at Luo Chen. Then, he took a few steps forward, knelt down on one knee, and respectfully shouted, "Brother Chen. Is that all for now?"